welcome back to Evil Popcorn. Yes, it is I, Mr. Popcorn, and we have something very special. With this episode, it's our second interview, technically, certainly our biggest interview at this stage. We're very chuffed to have this person on board because I myself was blessed with a surprise Christmas horror at the end of 2023. Hasn't been a stellar year, so this is a nice little treat at the end of the year to receive down under on Shudder. I am talking about The Sacrifice Game, and I am talking about writer, director, producer, and in my opinion, indie film punk rock legend, Jenn Wexler. Jenn, how are you? Thank you so much for joining us today.
Good. Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, no. It's an honor. It's an honor, definitely. As I say, it was a surprise Christmas horror. The Sacrifice Game came out here about a week or so ago. And and I saw you filmed The Ranger. Yep. And I follow yourself and Heather Buckley, producer, online. So definitely keep an eye on what you're both up to, if I may speak frankly. And so when I saw this pop up on Shudder, had to watch it and had a hell of a time. How do you feel about the film now that it's out and it's in the world and people are starting to talk about it, get you on other podcasts and that sort of thing?
Yeah, man, it's been a journey. I'm really proud of it, and it was certainly an adventure and a long one because I wrote the first draft of this movie in 2013. So it's been a
Yeah.
decade in the making.
Yeah, and you had that fun time that we had down here, of course, being a global phenomenon, being COVID and the pandemic. You got to really nail down, I've heard, during the pandemic writing this, yeah?
Yeah, so I wrote
Prepping
the
for it.
first draft in 2013. I put it aside for a couple of years and I refocused on The Ranger
Okay.
and producing movies to learn how to make movies first. And then in
Yeah.
2018, I came back to this draft. And then, yeah, the bulk of the writing was really during COVID.
Yeah. Well, good way to use the time. Good way to use the time. I myself started up my first podcast during that time to keep myself sane, so I get it. Yeah, you got to be
Amazing.
creative. Yeah, you had to be creative during that time. You had to do something. Yeah,
Yeah, you needed your like personal project to dive into.
absolutely. Now you mentioned The Ranger there. That was your first feature film, correct? Because you produced
Yeah,
other
as a
films before
director.
then as a
Yeah.
director. Yeah, exactly. Um, And forgive me, I don't have the year. I neglected to write down the year for The Ranger. Now, when did that land? When did that drop?
It world premiered in 2018 at South
Mhm.
by, and then it came out on Shudder in 2019.
Yeah, fantastic film as well. Lots of fun. Really enjoyed the punk rock energy to it as well. And I do see that same energy being transferred over into the sacrifice game. It's a different presentation of it, absolutely. But the same energy is there. But we'll get into that because I wanted to ask a couple of things about the Ranger. Because me and my friend, my podcast partner, shout out Shogun, wanted to know a few things. First of all, for me personally, was the Ranger the first time that you had complete freedom to fuel your love and influence of punk rock and horror movies into, like a feature film? Yeah.
Yeah, that was the first time I had made short films and I had complete freedom
Mm-hmm.
on my short films too. But The Ranger as my first feature, I was really like, I just want to fill this with all of my favorite things.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And was that the first time you had worked with Heather Buckley as
It
producer?
was. Yeah, I
Yeah.
mean, she was one of my good friends before that, and she was
Mm-hmm.
the first person I shared the Ranger script with.
Yeah.
And she was just like supportive of me as a writer and a director for a long time before she officially became involved as a producer on it.
Very cool. Very cool. So definitely check out The Ranger, people down here. It is available on Shudder. Is it still on Shudder over there?
It is on Cheddar.
Yeah, fantastic. And what myself and Shogun have discussed is the Ranger as a horror icon. We both think he would make a great horror icon. He has his own symbology. You hinted at it, like with the stone sigil that they find out near the cabin. And then I think he's painted himself with it, where he's wearing the wolf skin. And then there's the
Yeah.
whole thing with the wolf, the little wolf, and all that. Yeah. So there's already a kind of lore kind of fermenting there. Did you have any thoughts, any plans for that for that to happen, for him to become a horror icon at all?
Oh, we would love that. And we're always talking about like how do we make enough movies with him to get him into space? Because you
Mhm.
know that you've made it as a horror franchise when your horror icon goes to space.
Yeah, yeah, it's definitely, he's definitely got a lot, it's definitely got a lot of freedom by that stage when it goes to space. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
Jason X, shout out. Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah, very cool, very cool. So if it ever happens, we would love to see it down here. Definitely.
Cool. Cool.
Um, the sacrifice game. Now, in terms of cast and crew from the Ranger, who came over? Was it like a majority of people, a few key people?
It actually wasn't that many people because we shot in Canada.
Okay.
So just because of the way it was put together, we needed to hire mostly Canadian. But the people
Hmm.
that came over were Heather as a producer and also
Hmm.
Chloe Levine,
Ah,
who plays Rose in the Sacrifice Game and Chelsea in the Ranger.
absolutely. And I'll throw this question out now. Um, Chelsea's, sorry, Chloe. Chloe is great, absolutely. Two very different characters, Chelsea and Rose. Yeah. But except for a very similar sense of empathy. Yeah. Now, I was just wondering, was this due to specific character briefs that you gave them, or or I guess is this Chloe as well? Is this
I
Chloe
think
as a
it's just,
person, as an actor? Yeah.
yeah, I think it's just Chloe that she has this energy where, like, I don't know. I You just want to care for her. I want to care for her. She's
Mhm.
one of my best friends. Like after the
Okay.
Ranger, we just became really good friends. She was a bridesmaid at my wedding. We
Oh,
just
very cool.
like and then when we were working on when my now husband, then boyfriend, were working on the script together because he's a co-writer on the movie, Sean Redlitz. Um,
Hmm.
we were writing the character of Rose for Chloe, and there's a photo. Actually, it might be on her IMDb. She did a like a photo shoot probably around 2018, and there's a photo of her that I saw, and I was like, oh my god, this is Rose. This is this character I'm
Okay.
trying to write right now. Like you need to be this character, and
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah, it's really nice when you get to work with your best friends and since we had already worked together on the Ranger, we already had like our creative language we could easily dip into on
Mhm.
set.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. That's a really nice relationship to have. Yeah, I've had it a few times. I act a bit myself, and I've had it a few times with a director. And yeah, and it's invaluable to create a really nice product at the end. Um, as is cinematography, and the cinematography in the Sacrifice game is stellar. Yeah.
Uh,
Um, yeah, really, really good. I love the from heaven to hell. Yes, with the lighting as well, in terms of mise en place. There is very cool. Um, is it the same cinematographer, same DOP from the Ranger?
it is not. It's
It's not. Okay.
the Ranger was James Seward, who's a friend
Hmm.
from New York where we shot, and on the Sacrifice Game, it's Alexander Bussiere, who is a Quebec DP. And I was introduced to him, and I saw his stuff, and his stuff is just absolutely beautiful.
Yeah.
And um, and we met, and he really dug the project. And the way we talked about it is like it's period. It takes place in 1971, but we
Hmm.
also wanted it to feel like timeless and classic and like dreamy and fairy tale like.
Absolutely, absolutely. While still having a very contemporary energy and feel to it as well,
Yeah,
which is what
definitely
impressed
like
me. Yeah.
funneled through our 2022 when we shot um aesthetics and views of the world too.
Hmm. Hmm. Because I noticed not similar, but you have a vibrant approach towards lighting as well, with Ranger and the use of pink and the sacrifice game primary colors. Yeah. Is it like,
Yeah.
is that from you, or do you have a specific kind of lighting person slash crew?
Well, certainly it's a team effort
Hmm.
when you dive into a movie, you're working with your DP and your gaffer to create the right aesthetic, and then they're bringing all of their magic and knowledge from the references and stuff that you're giving them in the beginning. But with the Ranger, certainly I wanted it to feel like kind of a throwback to movies like Return of the Living Dead, while also being
Okay.
infused
Okay.
with Lisa Frank colors, like the neons and the pinks from
Hmm.
the early
Hmm.
90s, which was as a
Okay.
child, I was decked out in Lisa Frank stuff. And then with the Sacrifice Game, the primary colors I felt spoke to like movies like Black Christmas, for
Yeah.
instance,
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
and because it is a Christmas movie, it made sense as well to have those reds and greens and blues
Mhm.
and whatnot.
Yeah. Yeah. Very true. Very, very true. Um, Interesting. Interesting. Okay. Um, this is out of the blue. It came to me on my second watching. Reminded me at the very start of The Black Coat's Daughter, yeah, by Oz Perkins, yeah. Just the whole situation being left alone in the school, that sort of thing. And there were automatically, I mean, yeah, automatically, I mean, you see the Tarantino Manson-esque type opening. Yeah, the cold opening, which is glorious, absolutely. And then it switches, yeah, to this kind of, the almost above the colors, but of austere attitude toward it all. Um, Rambling. Point of this question is what are some of your modern film influences? Because I know you like your 80s and your 90s stuff. You obviously, if not a fan, you know what you're doing and talking about when it comes to 70s and before that. But in terms of contemporary new stuff, is there anything that stands out to you at the moment?
Well, certainly, by the way, well, I would say Tarantino, my
Okay.
references for Tarantino were 90s, like Pulp Fiction and Reservoir Dogs, which I saw again like as a kid, and those kinds of things were like just stuck with me forever. And also as a pre-adolescent, I was watching Buffy the Vampire Slayer and like the late
Nice.
90s teen slashers. So
Hmm.
tonally, and that was like my gateway into horror. So tonally,
Okay, cool.
I think this movie, like the way that I actually describe this movie to people who haven't seen it, are it's like Last House on the Left by way of Buffy the Vampire Slayer.
Mm. That's a fabulously fucked up combination. I like it a lot.
Yeah.
Big
And
Buffy
then
fan back in the day as well. But yeah,
oh
yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
it's so good. And then I see lots of horror movies. I've worked in the horror industry um
Hmm.
for
Hmm.
15 years. First at a TV network called FearNet back in the day that no
Oh
longer
yeah.
exists. Yeah.
Hmm.
And then for production, the production company Glass Eye Pix, and now making these movies. And anyway, so I keep up with horror, and certainly when The
Cool.
Black Coat's Daughter came out, I was a fan. Like that's a beautiful movie.
It is, isn't it? Yeah, yeah, yeah. The atmosphere, the tone, and then the reveal of it as well. I'm a fan of a big reveal, and we won't reveal. Yeah. Oh, okay. This is where I should say. Spoiler alert. Yes, this is the point where you need to go onto Shudder and watch, because we're going to go into some details, which, if you think about it for a couple of seconds, is going to give away some major reveals. And I love a good reveal, and the Sacrifice Game has a good reveal. And it involves Kara, who is played by Georgia, is it Aiken?
Akin.
Okay, Aiken. Yeah. Fantastic. Yeah. First feature, I believe.
First feature. Yep.
Yeah, yeah, stellar performance, absolutely. What I was really impressed is she sold being an ancient demon slash, perfunctory adult role in a girl's body. Yeah, not easy
Yeah.
to pull off, not easy to pull off, and she did it. So shout out to you there, Georgia. Absolutely. Um, Sorry, one sec. Yeah, what was did you work with her intensely for that, or did she bring a lot to the table? Yeah, a combination of both, you know what I mean?
Yeah, I would say it was a combination of both, but like just from her audition, she got it so instinctively and she really understood the
Hmm.
cross between being a teenage girl and being a demon. Like
Yeah.
she got that and she
Uh,
came at it and was excited to play that. And it's the kind of thing, especially she was 14 when we shot it. It wasn't the kind of thing that you can like just teach a person who doesn't get it. She got it. So she came when she did her audition, she was like reading the lines already the way that I had written them and imagined them in my head.
Awesome.
Um she on set, we went through the scenes before I we did everything that I do with all of the actors, which is we do rehearsals and we talk through the characters and we
Hmm.
talk through the character's arc, and then we would like before we shot a scene just go through it. And one of the things that I did, well, I do this for everybody, but I made her a playlist. I
I've
make
heard
each of
about
the
this. Yeah,
actors
this is
an
cool.
individual
Yeah.
playlist. And one of the songs that I put on the playlist for Claire for Georgia was "Sympathy for the Devil," Rolling Stones.
Nice. Very
And
cool.
I think that she really understood that, especially for the final climax dinner table scene. I think she
Hmm.
really owned that and
Yeah.
made it her own. I
Yeah.
think that was part of that was just part of our communication, was sharing songs back and forth.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. And combined with the dress and the little combat boots there that she was wearing,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Yeah.
She
And
got into the role.
she's like a horror kid. She's like a horror
Oh, okay.
fan.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Very cool opportunity. Yeah, very cool
Yeah.
opportunity for someone who's a fan at that age. Yeah, to be in a film like this. That's very cool. And the playlist thing is cool as well. Because I liked the use of music in this, absolutely. I like how you inverted some songs, the way they're usually heard and felt, Christmas songs and such. And that's what I like with a lot of what you do. That's very punk rock with your stuff. Yeah, I mean, like if you look at the Sacrifice Game as a Christmas movie, you flipped it entirely on your head, yeah, on its head. And is this what you plan to do when you go through other subgenres of horror, in terms of what's coming next in the future? Are you
Um,
wanting to keep up that energy? Because it's very cool, because this is a movie about a demon as well. And if you look at modern Satanism and that thing, that's all about inverting and flipping the oppressive status quo on its head. And that spirit is alive in the Sacrifice Game, if not as overtly stated as in the Ranger, if that's fair.
uh, thank you. Thank you. Um, I think I don't know about the future. I think it'll depend on the script and the story, but certainly it's something as an artist that I'm attracted to. I love taking tropes and subverting them. I'm always like trying to think about how to do that,
Yeah.
and those are the kind of stories that appeal to me. And I love using music in
Mhm.
like fucked up ways. And that was part of why I wanted to make a Christmas movie, because I really was excited to dive into Christmas music and use it in twisted, messed up
Yeah.
ways.
You've got a really good way of twisting things and bending expectations, even in the simple ways that Kara experiences the murders that is being performed in her name. Yes, we don't know that at this stage, yeah. But because Kara is also presented in such a shy, antisocial, possibly neurodivergent, if I may be honest, at the start, I was getting that kind of perception, yeah.
Yeah.
Um, and the way that you had her, pick up on these things, it's not what you expected. It's not obvious. It's not spoon fed. It's not big arrows anywhere. Hey, remember this or anything like that. And then coupled with, and talking of inversions, you've got a guy who played Aladdin, who, you know, is playing one of the most brilliantly theatrical slasher killers I've seen in a while. Yeah.
Yay.
What's his name? What's his name? I've got it
Mina
here.
Masood.
Yeah, thank you, thank you. Yes, yeah, check it out, people. Check it out. It's brilliantly done. Um, sorry. What was I? I lost my track. I lost track there for a moment. Da, 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 da. And yeah, sorry, and yeah, talking about yeah, so and his theatricality, which is very loud and boisterous, and Kara keeping quiet. I saw her at the start just being someone possibly who's been through some bad trauma. That's why she's at the school, and also why she can deal with an intense situation. While Samantha, who was amazing as well, yeah, a beautiful counterpoint. Um, she, like she was just playing strategically that game. So all those things combined, when the reveal come that she's the demon, I didn't see it coming, and it was beautifully done. Yeah, I hope that made sense
Amazing.
at the end.
Amazing, yes. And my hope is like, once you watch it the first time, if one chooses to go back, you'll see you'll see how
You
it's
do,
we're
yeah, you
setting
do.
it up,
Yes.
especially Georgia. In some of those scenes early on, like the dining room scene where they're tied up, it's just fun to watch what Georgia's doing because she's like smiling in a creepy way.
The eyes, yes, the
Yeah,
calculation behind the eyes, it's
yeah,
fantastic. And of course, when the reveal does occur, we are treated to a fantastic dance scene. Yeah.
yes.
Yeah, this is a brilliant dance scene. Was it all, was it, if I may ask, was it modified at all, the physicality, or was that all Georgia?
Oh, that was all Georgia
That was
completely.
all Georgia. Yeah. And then
Yeah,
the sound design, I'm not sure how you got the creaking bones going there. Don't have to reveal that, but it was beautifully done. Yeah, really added to it. And yeah, and it was just cool. It was contortion-y and macabre, but also what I was really impressed with in this whole film, I must say, because it's a very female-focused film, very female-led, yes, which I'm really into, really appreciate. There was nothing sexual about it. Yeah. I mean, if all the
yeah,
guys want Mazzy, sure, but that's very typical. Yeah. But
yeah.
and certainly not with Kara. I thought that was really well done. Yeah, because you do have an adult, a very old spirit in a child's body. Yeah.
Yeah.
Um, and what I wanted to ask is, yeah, what do you think? But it's challenging at the same time. Yeah, which I also
Yeah.
appreciated. What do you think? How do you see the line between challenging cinema and exploitation? Yeah, because that's a thing I imagine. You as a horror creator, that's a question you think of and that you are faced in terms of commentary. Yeah.
Yeah, well, certainly, you bring up the dance scene, you bring up Claire. There are a couple moments I was concerned about because she's an underage actress. An influence on the dance scene was the dance scene from Night of the Demons, which is
Okay.
where
Yep.
she's dancing in front of the fireplace, which is way sexier. So I didn't want this to be sexy. I wanted this to be teen girl rocking out in her bedroom. And part of that was working with our choreographer, Abby Leaf, a choreographer from New York, and just being who designed that dance sequence for Georgia. And just being really clear, like this is not this is rocking
Mm-hmm.
out teen girl rocking out in her bedroom, and also empowering. Like I wanted it to feel empowering. This is when the demon
Mm-hmm.
is gaining power literally in the movie, and she's like embracing the power and she's excited by that power. So
Absolutely.
that was important. And then also like there's a scene with Grant where Grant touches the scar
Mm-hmm.
on her stomach, and we had an intimacy coordinator with
Mm-hmm.
us for that, just to make sure everybody felt comfortable. And also Derek Johns, who plays Grant, is really just his performance is great at keeping it on that side of the line
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
um
Agreed.
of he's going through this, like he's looking into an abyss. There's
Yeah.
no sexualization at all.
No, no, because a lot of Kara's power is psychological. Yeah, she
Yeah,
fucks with their mind quite
yeah,
in a very, very heavy, intense, extraordinary way. And her power is really exemplified when she is dancing, and you see she's just messed with Grant. He's staring into the fire, and then you have Jude walking through the hallway, going, "I'm the vessel, but I'm the
yeah.
vessel."
Yeah.
Yeah,
And
which was
I also,
yeah, please.
just off your question, I also just want to say, just in general, I think the line between like
Mm,
how do you stop something from feeling exploitative is to really think about it from the character's perspective and to look at the journey through the character and their objectives versus looking at the character with the camera in more of a lingering kind of way. And
That's
it's
really
a
well put.
yeah, how do you look at the scene through the character's perspective?
Yes. Yeah. Absolutely. Mm. Okay, I'll throw this out there because I have been thinking about it myself. And yeah, it's to do with taboos. Should horror directors, basically the question is, should horror directors be concerned with taboos? Yeah, because there's two big taboos that I see in horror at the moment. And that is to do with children, and that is to do with animals. Yeah.
Yeah,
Uh,
like not
um,
killing a dog or whatever, right?
yeah. Or if you've seen When Evil Lurks, that combines both. Yeah.
Yeah. Great scene, great scene.
Yeah, incredible.
Yeah,
Berserk, absolutely. Um, yeah, I mean, you're talking about seeing through a character, it's motivated by the character's, needs, wants, that sort of thing, and not what some spectator wants, not to go into,
yeah,
detail, but you get me. And if a taboo is confronted in such a way that makes sense in the plot, yeah, like it did with When Evil Lurks, yeah. Um, is that is that a way to justify working with taboos, confronting taboos, transgressing that sort of thing? Yeah.
100%. I think that that is like when that's the point of the story, when it's thematically appropriate to the story you're telling and the message you're telling, and it matters to the story, then I think you should embrace the taboos fully and uh drive towards them head on. I think it feels exploitative. And by the way, exploitation is cool if that's the point of the
Mm,
story you're trying to tell.
mhm,
I think it
mhm.
just doesn't feel right and it feels exploitative when that's not the purpose of the story and you're doing it for no reason other than shock value. Unless again, shock value is the point of the overall story.
But I think you made a point there with having, the choreographer has a clear brief of what is required. Yeah, you've got an intimacy coordinator on set. Yeah, there are
Yeah.
ways. Yeah, there are ways to do challenging cinema, and yeah. Because I would argue adult entertainment. I don't want
Yeah.
horror movies. I don't want rap music. I don't want all that to disappear because it's seen as whatever. But that's another whole kettle of fish. Yeah, but yeah, thank you for that. Thank you for that.
Yeah.
Just yeah, here's an aside. Black Veil. What is Black Veil?
Uh
It's yeah.
where did the name come from?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Um it was originally it was Black Wood in the very like first draft of the script. And then I think I realized Lois Duncan's novel Down a Dark Hall was called The Blackwood School for Girls or something. So then
Okay.
I took the idea of Blackwood and also like in the Ranger, it's Blackwood Point National Park. There's just something about the
Okay. Yeah.
about the term Blackwood that I was attracted to. Um and then uh the writer obviously he wrote the Wendigo story in the 1800s. I'm not pronouncing his name right. Algernon Blackwood, maybe.
Mhm.
Anyway, there's something mystical about the word Blackwood. Anyway, that's where it started. There's already a school called Blackwood in Down a Dark Hall. So then I went to Black Vale, and Vale is kind of a valley and mountains, valleys, and then Vale, although spelled differently, is kind of like a shroud, a thing you hide behind. So it started to feel uh like it worked for the story we were
Mm,
telling.
absolutely. No, it's evocative. It's evocative, definitely. And yeah, just curious, just curious. Um, who produced the film overall? Because I know it's a Shudder. Is it a Shudder original? I believe.
Yeah, it
Yeah,
was
but otherwise, who produced?
Shutter and Red Sea Media was our foreign sales company, and they came on early. And then our lead producers were Heather, as well as Phil Kalin and Albert Malamed, and they are Quebec producers.
Okay.
So Heather introduced me to them. They really loved the script, and they brought us to Montreal and took us on a location scout, and we're like, let's make the movie here. We will
Mhm.
put this movie together. And they were like, now they're like some of my best friends. Like they were an incredible team, and then they connected us with the Quebec film community, and our crew was just awesome. So it was, but they put the whole movie together.
Fantastic. Yeah, we hear good things about the Canadian film industry. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, a bit more freedom than Hollywood, shall we say. Yeah.
Yes.
If I may ask, occult references for your demon, anything specific?
Um, well, in the creation of the demon, I was looking at the Lesser Key of Solomon demons,
Okay.
and
The 72.
yeah, the 72
Mhm.
demons. And I didn't want to use one of those because there's certainly you have movies that use those actual demons, like Hereditary, I believe, uses
Mhm.
a
Bang
demon
on.
from there.
Yeah.
But I was a little concerned about I don't want the demons to be mad at me for misusing them and misrepresenting them. So
Yeah.
I
Hmm.
so I wanted to create our own version of, but stealing some traits from various demons in terms of like the
Okay.
powers that Clara has. And actually they call her Soralk, which is our own name for Clara, but uh little hint, which I haven't talked about too much, is that
Mm.
Soralk is Claris, which is male version of Clara, backwards. Soralk,
Um,
Claris.
thank you. I like that. I like that.
So
Yeah.
everything has like there's I mean I worked on this for 10 years. There's like deep thought into every little tiny
Of
thing. And then
course. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
in terms of her sigil, I took a
Hmm.
sigil I took a sigil creation class in at an occult bookstore in Brooklyn that sadly just closed, but it's called Catland Books, and they taught us how to create sigils. So I created one. It's what you have to do is write down a wish, and
Hmm.
then you take those letters and you combine them until they lose meaning, and the sigil just represents the wish.
Hmm.
So our sigil, and now I can say what the wish is because I waited a long time without telling anybody what it meant, but now I'll tell you, which
Oh, wow.
is
Cool. Exclusive.
it means exclusive. I told a couple other people
Oh,
before
okay.
this, but
Okay.
but
Gotcha.
just recently, like
Hmm.
I waited like until very recently.
Very cool.
Anyway, it means manifest this movie
Ah.
because I was trying to get the movie
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
financed.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
And so the sigil is
Yep,
manifest this movie. But now the movie's out, so it has been manifested, and therefore
absolutely.
the sigil worked.
It did. People are talking about it. People are talking about it. Hey, some, weirdo from down under is talking about it. So yeah, no, thank you. Thank you for sharing all that. That's fantastic. What's next?
I'm attached to a paranoid sci-fi thriller called Rachel, which I'm
Oh,
excited about because I haven't done anything sci-fi yet,
okay. Do you
and
like
I'm excited
sci-fi?
to get into that. I do. I'm more a horror sci-fi person than strict
Yeah.
sci-fi. And I know enough about sci-fi to know that I should definitely not claim I like sci-fi when there are actual real hardcore
Oh
sci-fi fans
yes.
out
Oh
there.
yes.
Um, but I do like my horror sci-fi, and I don't want to even want to get into things I like because I don't want to give away my references and
Okay.
influences for this
Okay.
movie that's in
Hmm.
um, early, early pre-production.
Will you be adding some horror, I guess, is the big question.
Definitely,
Yeah,
yeah,
cool.
there will be
Yeah.
horror elements for sure. And that's I'm hoping it goes. We'll see. We'll hopefully know more after the holidays. Um, but that's something I'm excited about. And then just developing different ideas right now. And
Hmm.
we'll see what 2024 holds.
Fantastic, fantastic. Yeah, so yeah. We will be watching. We look forward. Yes. Um, Anything you want to plug? Do you want to say where people can get this? Any of your socials?
Yeah. So I'm on Instagram at Bubblegum and Blood, and the movie is on Instagram at The Sacrifice Game. And you
Mhm.
can watch the movie on Shudder as well as AMC Plus.
Fantastic. Yes, and down here again, yes, you can watch it on Shudder, and follow us on Facebook, YouTube, at Evil Popcorn Pod. And yeah, Jenn, yeah, thank you so much. Yeah, this has been great. Yeah, I know you're a busy
Thank you.
person,
This
so
is so
really
fun.
appreciate it. Yeah, cool, cool. We will share it up and spread the word for this, the Ranger, and whatever else you do in the future. Thank you for coming on Evil Popcorn.
Thank you for having me.
Cool. Whoa, up, up, up.